Oh man, we are live. What is going on? I don't even know if anyone's here. Oh, we got a few people coming in, it looks like. Maybe? Who's in here? If you're here, say hello. Guess so, maybe so. All right, I'm gonna get some music playing here. I think that should be able to be. Oh, I have to put desktop audio on. I think that should work. Oh, hey, what's up? I think you're the first one, Erica. Hello. So I guess we'll just get started. I mean, what else are we gonna do, right? So anyway, actually, let me know is how's the audio? Does it seem okay? Does the audio seem okay? I've been testing it, and I was making sure that it was actually like a reasonable volume, but I don't know if it is or not. This is definitely taking some getting used to, though. Gotta tell you. Nice. All right, awesome, cool. Thank you for letting me know. All right, so I'm gonna go switch over to the main screen right now, and obviously you can see this is the main face cam, and then I switch over, and we're gonna start with this shot from Cannon Beach. This was taken. If I hit the I button here, our key, you'll you'll see that it changes this up here. So if you're in Lightroom, it's actually really useful because at least it gives you the timestamp. It gives you the file name and also the size of the image itself. If you hit it one more time, it'll give you all your EXIF info as well. So you've got your shutter speed, your f-stop, your ISO, and also what lens you used on this one. I took this, as you can see, back in 2014, and I had this with my old Olympus OMD back in the day. So not even any of my Nikon stuff. This was like the small camera that I bought, and this is one of the shots that was from that part of the time. So there's a lot you can do. Obviously this is just the raw file, but there's a few things that you want. I'm going to try to do. So I've got a couple people here. I think that's Alan, and that might be Sasha in there. I'm not sure if that's them or not, but I'm going to try to remove them from the scene, and then maybe clean up some of the stuff up above as well. You can see there's some lens dust or sensor dust on here, so I'll get rid of that. And we'll do some stuff with the color treatment. So usually what I do with any photo, if it's a landscape or not, I usually try to make sure that it's like straightened first. And so I'll use the crop tool, which you can see up here at the top. So when you have the crop tool, what's actually nice about this is, and apparently a couple of my friends didn't know you could do this, you can actually change the type of crop marks that you have. So by default, it goes with the rule of thirds, as you can see. But if you press the O key, it'll actually change it to different types of cropping tools. So you can have it like this. This one's nice if you really want to like put something dead center in the screen or the frame. But there's a whole bunch of different ones. This one's a different take on the rule of thirds. And then you've also got like the golden ratio as well, if you want to use that. This actually has crop marks for different sizes of aspect ratios and things like that. But and then you have like a grid. But I'm going to stick with the classic rule of thirds here. You can see that I was going for that. And I just want to make sure this horizon is straight, because that's usually one of the things that bug me about any landscape photo is the horizon. So you can either manually adjust it this way, as you can see, but actually the best way to do that in Lightroom is actually to use this little ruler. So I click the ruler, and basically with the ruler, you just draw a line, and you just find the horizon here like this, and you draw this line across and kind of drag it so it looks like it's right on there, and let go. And you can see my horizon was actually pretty good, and you can see my rule of thirds was actually already pretty good as well on Haystack Rock here. So you can see from the angle, it's only 0.05 that's been adjusted, but for someone like me, that bugs me, so I'm gonna fix that. So I think I'm good on the crop and straighten, so I'm gonna hit close. Now the next thing I want to do is try to get rid of some of the stuff that I see, like the sensor dust. So this is really easy to do in Lightroom, and you use the healing brush for this. So if I click this, you have some control over the size and the feather, which is like how strong the edges are basically of the brush, and the opacity is how much you can see through it. You can also you can change the size here, but you can also change it by just rolling your mouse. Hey Wentz, hello, thank you for joining. But you can see here, hopefully you can see that my mouse is changing size. So I'm gonna make it just a little bit bigger than this little spot here, and I'm just gonna click once, and Lightroom automatically finds something that looks like that and fills it in, part of the algorithm. And now that little sensor spot's pretty much gone. Now these guys are going to be a little bit harder because, as you can see, they've got like waves and things like that. But Lightroom's actually gotten a lot better about this over the years. So let's give it a try first here in Lightroom. And if it doesn't work well, then after we do some other edits, we'll bring it into Photoshop and then go from there. So I'm going to hit the same thing. And I'm going to shrink this to about the right width. And this time, instead of just making a circle, I'm actually going to paint over them. So as I go like this, you'll see I just want to cover that. So, and if I let go, that actually did a pretty decent job, but you can see that it's not aligned with the waves here. So I can take this little pin and kind of drag it over, and you can see it's not the best, right? Like, it's pretty good, kind of like, well, you can't even see what I'm pointing at with my finger, but you can see that it's okay on some of it, but not the best. So if I hit close, you can see that there's still a little bit of marks there. So what I think I'll do is I'll do that for now, and then we'll bring this into Photoshop later and clean it up a little bit. We'll take Alan over here. I think that's Alan though on this one, and do the same thing. And it's probably going to be very similar in the quality of how well this goes. Hey Jay, long time no see. What's up? All right. And then do the kind of the same thing here. And again, we're going to clean this up a little bit more in Photoshop, but at least for now, we'll see how this goes. All right. So, you know, if you're looking at it from this size, it doesn't look like there's anything there, which is pretty good. But with attention to detail, I mean, you really want to kind of zoom in and get that stuff all fixed and things like that. So, so we'll leave it for now. And then now we'll start some of the color treatment stuff. So on the right hand side, you've got things like exposure, you've got highlights and shadows. The first thing I like to do is actually kind of mess around with the sky a little bit. And now, one of the new things that they've added to Lightroom, literally like in the past week, is this new like selection tool for the sky and things like that. Well, we're going to experiment with that and see how it works. So those all start up here at the top right, where you've got your masking. All right. And now you can select a mask. I'm going to select the sky. And now in Lightroom, they have all this AI that will actually do this for you. Whereas before, you'd have to actually do this manually. So I'm going to hit sky. You can see that it's doing its thing. And holy crap, like it literally selected the sky, and that's in red. You can change this color. Usually red's the default, but let's say if you're got something else is red or something like that, you can choose a different color, as you can see. But I'm just gonna stick with red. Actually, that green's pretty good. Like, you can see how it's kind of leaking off into the rocks and stuff a little bit. But at least anything, that's a pretty good selection, and we can refine that a little bit later, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So it stays selected until you actually do a change over here on the effects. And usually on something like this, I want to lower the exposure a little bit to make the sky a little bit darker. So once I take this and I start dragging that down, you can see the sky's getting a little darker. You know, it's okay. It doesn't need to be that dark. So I'm just going to double click on the exposure here, and that resets it back to the start. I'll actually start with something like dehaze instead. So I'm gonna go like this, and you can see how dehaze kind of brings the blues out a little bit more, and also the kind of the structure in the clouds a little bit. You can do that a little bit more with the clarity as well. So I'm gonna drag that over a little bit. And this part is not really much of a science, right? It's just whatever looks good to you is you know, it's not like you have to have exact numbers and things like that. And then I'm going to hit the texture a little bit too, just to get a little bit more sharpness out of some of the clouds. So that's looking pretty good, but there's a few other things you can do to this as well. So you can do things like temperature and color and saturation and stuff like that. Let's bring the highlights down a little bit, and very, very small change. You can see some of the kind of bright whites over here. It changes it just a slight bit. So if I increase it, you can see how bright that white gets, and you don't want to do that because you're going to blow out your highlights. So we'll bring that down a little bit, and maybe some of the blacks. Ooh, if I bring the blacks, it gets kind of this nice, really crisp effect like that. Okay, I think that's pretty good. But again, well, we had a little bit, if I select this overlay, you can see that some of it was actually kind of leaking off into the water and stuff like that. So if I want to get rid of that, actually you want to hit is subtract. And I'm just going to take a brush here. And now that I have this brush, I can increase the size by just kind of rolling the mouse again. Andy, what's up, man? And then I definitely don't want to hit this bottom. So when I click here, I'm going to hold down the shift key, and that'll keep it straight. And if I drag across, you can see it's getting rid of some of the green stuff that's at the bottom there. So now we can make sure that that's not affected by that mask. All right. And then if I turn that overlay off, that's pretty good. Now that we've got the sky done, maybe we want to work on the foreground, right? So what I'll do is I'm going to go to this mask up here, and I'm going to hit duplicate. And you see, because I duplicated it, it just stacked it on top of the other mask. And so I don't want to do that. So what I want to do instead is actually invert it. So if I'm going to select this, and there is an invert over here, where is my sky, okay? And I hit invert. And now it's selecting the foreground. So if I hit show overlay, now you got the foreground. Let's change the color of this overlay to like a red, so we know the difference between the two. So we've got the green for the sky, we got the red for the foreground. So now that I have it selected, I can make some adjustments, and notice that it kept, because I duplicated the original one for the sky, it kept all the adjustments there before. So let's reset that. So I'm gonna double click on this and this, on all these actually. I think I can just go double click effect and it resets everything. And then I want to make some changes to the foreground here. So let's do some stuff. Let's add some temperature to that. So notice how it was kind of grayish sand, kind of blah. With the temperature, you can actually do some crazy stuff on this, but I'm gonna make the sand kind of stand out a little bit more, like more reddish orange, and I can change the tint a little bit as well. And notice it's affecting the rock, so we're gonna get rid of that a little bit later. And then I'm gonna add some texture to kind of bring out some of the sharpness and a little bit of clarity as well. Notice also it's also affecting the water, so we definitely want to make sure it only affects this portion of the sand. So what I can do here is I can actually subtract stuff in the water. There's a couple of ways you can do that. If you hit subtract and you go color range, this is interesting. So it's going to take a range of color that you select, and then it's going to take that out. So if I don't want to remove this portion of it, it's looking for that color. And see, because this color is very similar to the water, it actually subtracted all that. So that's not what I want to do. Let's do it instead. We'll just do another brush, and that's a subtract. And we're going to get rid of that here. And you can't really see it very well, so let me put the overlay back on. Okay, there we go. And now I'm just going to erase all the red that we had previously, including the rock. I don't want the rock this time. Just want the sand. And a lot of times you want to change your sizes and stuff like this while you do it, just to make sure that you get all the stuff that you actually want to affect. But since we have this set to auto mask, it's going to automatically look for those edges and things like that, and try to make that mask. Jeremy, what's up, dude? All right, so I got rid of that mask there. And now it should really only be the sand. So if I take that out, there you go. So that sand's really standing out. Let's say I want to reduce the exposure a little bit like that, and then maybe increase the contrast a little bit more. All right, so that's pretty decent. I'm going to go back to the sky, and let's go back to my sky mask. Now, for best practice, if you're doing this a lot, you probably want to name these things. So you can double click and call this sky, and then I'm going to call this one sand. So that way it's easier to remember. And you can also dock this, so you can actually drag this over here if you want to, but by default it just kind of stays up in that little corner right there. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the sky, and I'm going to make some changes. So let's say I want to change the temperature of this. Let's make it like super blue. You can do that. You can even make it a little bit more magenta there. That's pretty good. Okay, so I'm pretty good with that overall, so I'm going to close that. And now we can get to some other things. Now, because I was only doing masks on that, it didn't affect any of the global adjustments. So you see that everything else is still set to 0 and all that over here. Kyle, what's up, dude? Glad you could join. So, like, if I want to do a dehaze to everything, you can see how that affects everything as well. And then we get down to things like the tone curves, and this is where you can really do some crazy stuff. So by default, it starts with just like all colors, but you can also do separate colors. A lot of people you see on like Instagram and stuff like that, they go for kind of like a faded look. And so if you want to do that, you can bring this up here, bring this down a little bit, and then we'll give it a little bit of we actually want more of an S curve like this. So you see your curves can do a lot of stuff. Like this is probably your most powerful tool within Lightroom or even Photoshop. And you know, without having to explain how all of this stuff works on this histogram, basically everything on the left is your darks. Everything on your right are your lights. And so basically, since I have this here, I'm increasing the darks a little bit and decreasing the lights, and so that gives it more contrast and makes things kind of stand out a little bit more. So that's one way to do things. You can also you can see there's a bunch of stuff that's also built in if you have that. I'm going to just reset this back to normal, but you can also do it by color in the curves. So let's say if I only want to affect the reds, I can go like this, and you can make the whole thing red. You can also make the whole thing a little bit more green. And thankfully, Lightroom kind of shows you like, what are you affecting here? If I want more red, I can go this way. I want more green, I would go this way, right? And then you have that same thing for green and also blue. So RGB, right? So if you want more yellow, you take this curve and you drag it down this way. You got kind of this Venus look, or you can go super blue. A lot of different things you can do that. I'm just going to stick with this because the other thing I want to show you is down here, which is the color grading. This is kind of a relatively new feature in Lightroom. They added this, I think, on the last big update before last week. But it's actually done a lot of things with, I use this a lot with a lot of my processing now. And this is all based on your highlights, your shadows, and your midtones. And basically, if you're going to kind of change the color on that a little bit. So let's say I want my shadows to be warmer. So I'm going to take this little circle here, and I can drag it over toward the edge. So notice there's a couple things here. So let me actually, if you go to this shows you all three, but if you click this one, now you have like just the shadows, right? Now, as I click and drag this toward the edge, see how the hue and the saturation changes? The farther I get to the edge, the higher the saturation is. So this is 100% saturation on the hue 43, which is like this yellow orange, right? Same thing if I go to the other end. If I want to make it super blue on the shadows, it's 100% saturation there, 213 on the hue. Now, I don't want to go that much because that's way too much saturation. But let's say if I want to make this into something like a matrixy type of thing, what they usually do is they have like greens in the shadows and the midtones, and the highlights they do like a yellow. So let's say in the shadows I want to go like kind of greenish like this, and then on the midtones we'll go greenish as well, and then the highlights you kind of go toward the yellow. And so you can add a little bit more saturation and things like that. So you're starting to get kind of that matrixy effect on that, right? Then you can go a step further. Let's say you definitely want more greens in there. I can go over here to the hue, saturation, and luminance. We'll go to saturation. Let's say we want to take the blues down. You can either just take the blue like this and drag it down, or what I like to do actually is take this tool over here and just go to the color that you want to desaturate or change and just drag up or down. And now that blue is kind of really going away. Or you can increase it by a lot as well. So definitely some different things you can do there. Reading the chat now. Cool, thanks Cal, good to see you, man. Thank you. We'll have to hook up soon, dude. We got to do a shoot together again, because we've been trying to plan that for a while. All right, so you have your saturation over there. I'm just gonna keep it how it was, and again, we were gonna go back to this over here with the haystack rock. So let's go back to our selection tools. Let's see if it'll actually select the rock as a subject this time, right? So I'm gonna hit select subject, which is also new in Lightroom. And what's it gonna detect? Oh, look at that. That's crazy. Like this is amazing me every time I use it, because it just knows, and it's all AI powered, but it selects it. And now I can actually just affect the rock itself. So let's say I want to bring the color temperature down a little bit to match. So now it's not the same as the sand. I want to bring up the shadows because I want to get some more of that detail in there. A little bit more contrast as well. Let's increase it. Nope, don't want to do that because exposure is all wacky. Let's get some clarity in there and a little bit more texture to really bring out the sharpness of the rock and stuff like that. Can I edit spaghetti? I don't know what you want me to edit spaghetti into. Like, am I turning that into lasagna or something? Or am I turning spaghetti into sweaty palms? Like, I suppose we could try it, but definitely let me know what you want me to do with spaghetti. But anyway, going back to this. So this was our rock here. And so now I've made some adjustments there. You can also adjust like the hue and saturation. So definitely don't want to adjust that too much. We're going to keep that whatever it is. A little bit of dehaze on there as well. And so there you have it, right? That's a pretty different edit. It's not something I would normally do, but it just gives you an idea of the different things you can do with something that's quote unquote simple as a beach photo, right? Anybody have any questions on this edit so far? We can always come back to this. So I think we're good on that. Oh, I think we're gonna try to clean up some of this stuff with the getting the people out of here, right? So let's actually I'm gonna go like this. I'll go photo, edit in Photoshop, and what this will do is it'll ask me if I want to keep my Lightroom adjustments after we get the pinwheel gone. Wayne Johnson is pretty cool. Yeah, he is. Oh, it should be asking me to put it in. There you go. Let's go straight in here. So now I have this in Photoshop. And I'm going to zoom in. So I hit Z and zoom in on where I had this little line right here. So what I'm going to do actually is, we did pretty good on kind of the sea foam over here, but it's over here where things are not looking right. So I'm just going to go up to this brush here, hit J and hit the patch tool. And so I'm going to take this area that doesn't look quite right. I'm just going to make a box out of it. And then I'll just drag it over to kind of get a sample from something next to it. I don't want that rock, so let's do it like this. And that patches it up pretty good. Actually, that's not that great. Let's go the other way. Yeah, there's a little bit of... This is where there are challenges with this, because it's trying to sample things from the side, and so you can see there's some edges on here. And so what I often do is try to clean that up with just using the spot brush at this point and just kind of cleaning up the edges. Oh, too big. Clean up that edge a little bit there. And little dabs can kind of like help it, and sometimes it's actually not too bad. This one is definitely worse. If I hit this over there, it cleans that up a little bit. And it's not bad. You can literally spend a whole lot of time trying to clean all this stuff up, but I mean, again, this is the big photo, so unless you're really trying to look for stuff that's not right, then you're probably not going to find any problem with it. So, Edomar, hello, welcome. Put a pretty girl on the beach. Well, yeah, we could definitely try to do that. That will take a little bit more doing, and we need to figure out a way to comp that in. But let's hold on to that thought, right? Maybe we'll approach that later. But I'm gonna save that for now. And as to save that, when you go back into Lightroom, it'll actually save a PSD version of that, and you can see how it stacks. So you've got your original over here, which is your raw file, and then you've got the PSD version, which you can edit later on. So, all right, cool. So we'll leave this as it is right now. Again, not my typical type of edit for this, but I just wanted to show off like some of the new features and how that affects things. Let's go over to this sweeping La Jolla Beach landscape from San Diego area. This is, if I hit the I button again, this is back in 2017. This is actually, I think, the day after Sydney's wedding down in San Diego. So we went to La Jolla Cove and we took a bunch of photos, and one of my favorite photos I took at the same spot, but just kind of facing the other way. But I wanted to take this one as a nice little kind of beach coastal scene and see what we can do something different with it. So just like last time, again, what I usually try to do is make sure that we have a straightened horizon. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to take the ruler. And I'm really looking at the horizon for the water, right? Because obviously the land is kind of bumpy and hilly and stuff like that. But the water is always straight because it's water, obviously. So I'm going to try to straighten that out. So I'm going to take this edge here and go just make that line on the water line like this. And there you go, I straightened it out. And then you can drag it a little bit like so. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And then we'll do like we did last time, is I'm going to select the sky. So we'll hit this and we'll do select sky and see if it works its magic. Pretty good. Now notice that if I change the color of this, let's change this to like green or something. Okay. The red is pretty good for that because it definitely stands out, right? But we'll have to see, make sure it didn't select too much of the land here. But we'll start with the sky. We'll do some exposure adjustments like this. Darken a little bit, just a tad. Bring that dehaze. Oh, the dehaze really... The dehaze is great because it kind of punches through any of the mist that you might have, hence the dehaze. But it also really accentuates kind of the blues and things like that. The one thing you have to watch out for with the dehaze is that sometimes it also changes your white balance for that particular area too. So You might have to kind of balance that out with a little bit cooler white balance like this. But we'll leave that for now. And then I'm going to increase some clarity on it as well to kind of bring the clouds out a little bit more and a little bit of texture. Now, what's cool is you can also adjust the tint and stuff. So we obviously have a blue sky here, but if I want to, let's say, have it a little bit more warmish, I can drag it down this way, or a little bit more purple. We'll go this way. Let's go purple. Kind of matches the room ambiance right now, right? Stick with that, okay? And then let's show that overlay again, okay? And then I want to make sure that the land here doesn't get affected by that. So I'm going to hit subtract, and we'll do the brush. And you can see a little bit here, right? So some of this is also affected. I don't want those trees to be affected by that. And it's just brushing along here. Okay. Pretty good, pretty good. All right. That's pretty good. Okay, so then we have the rest of the photo. So let's try to make this a little bit more dramatic, right? So I'm going to start with just the overall exposure with stuff, which is pretty good. Well, bring some of the highlights down a little bit overall. Get some more of that shadow detail out. So see how dark this was over here in this area, right? So I want to bring the shadows out. So I'm going to increase the shadows like this, and you can see that you're actually recovering more area there. And usually you don't want to do like 100%. That's a lot of shadows, right? But at least bring out a little bit more so you can see more of it. And then we want to make sure that the whites are good too, because we need a good proper exposure with this overall. So bring the whites up a little bit. This looks really good here with the water, so we want to make sure we maintain that. And then I'm going to decrease the blacks a little bit just to give it a little bit more contrast. Now you can notice that because that's a global adjustment, it affected the sky a little bit. So let's go back to the sky and actually make sure that that is properly named. Bring that tint down just a little bit. Let's just go back. Yeah, okay. I bring that up 50%. It's fine. Okay. And then we're going to do a global dehaze again, which, wow, you can see how much more that affects. Because remember, we've got that mask for the dehaze on the sky. And so if we dehaze it again, it's going to stack on top of it. So you have to be careful about that. So I'm not going to dehaze it that much, but I do want to affect the rest of it. So let's go just a little bit more there and a little bit more clarity. And now let's dive into the tone curve a little bit here. I'm going to raise the overall exposure a little bit with this. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. And bring that up here. And then this edge, I'm going to bring that up. Let's actually go to this one. There we go. Oh, that's much better. That's more what I was going for. That's a little too much there. So I'll add another point and drag that. Oh, look at how that really brings that contrast out. Now we'll raise this a little bit and maybe bring this one down a little bit more. Now you can see that some of these areas are a little bit too bright, right? And so the way you can actually look for that, or we call that clipping highlights or clipping your shadows. So up here, if I click this, this will actually show in really bright red and highlights like where you might be overexposing. So if I go like this, see how that red really shows up? You don't want that, right? But I actually did pretty decently of still exposing this, but not really having any of these bright. Oh, see, you can see the red there, right? So it was just so hard to see because it's part of the water. So let's bring this down a little bit. Whoa, don't want that. Bring this down. Okay. We'll bring the overall exposure down just a little bit to get rid of the reds. Yeah, see. And then a little bit of the highlights down a little bit too. That's not bad. So you're not going to get rid of every single one of them because, I mean, you need whites in the thing, right? But that's not bad, right? But let's say I want to darken that area. So I'm going to take this mask again, but this time I'm going to make a new one, and we're just going to make a radial gradient. Radial is basically just an oval or a circle, right? And I want to take this whole area right in the middle here. And you can change the size of it using this. You can also move it by going this way, and you can rotate it as well by taking the edges and going like this. This is kind of the main area I want to affect. So let's say in here, I'm going to make some adjustments to things like the exposure and stuff like that. So if I want to go like that, you can see that brings that down. If I turn this back on, you can see most of that red stuff is gone now. And it's only working for that specific area here so that I'm not affecting the whole image at once, right? Let's bring a little bit of the whites down, just a little bit. And if I increase the dehaze, gives it a little bit more contrast. And a little bit more texture just to make it stand out a little bit. And we'll call this the little water highlights. All right. There you go. That's a little better. So if I want to preview what that looks like, I can just go like this. See how much brighter it was, and then if I let go, now it's a little bit more balanced out, right? And that actually is pretty good, especially here for this little water splash, because you can see more of the actual splash itself instead of just being totally blown out highlights is what we would usually call that. All right, so you know, I'm going back to the sky. This purple is not really working for me anymore, so I'm gonna just reset that. That looks pretty good. Maybe it's the temperature that I want to change. Nah. Actually, a cooler temperature kind of works. Kind of like that. Let's dehaze it just a little bit more. And I want a little bit more texture. Yeah, that's pretty good. So now that I'm looking at it, we definitely got this area a little bit better off, but now we were a little bit dark in this area at the bottom. So we're going to do a different mask this time. I'll turn that highlight off. And now we're going to use a linear gradient. And now I'm going to take this from the top, from the bottom here, and I'm going to drag up. Because it's just this area down here that is a little bit too dark. So if you want, you can hold shift and it actually like straightens it out exactly. But I'm really just trying to affect this kind of diagonalish area. So I'm just going to be a little more liberal with it here, and you can use this to just drag it up. And again, we were talking about how that's a little bit dark, so actually I'm going to call this the bottom dark area here, and then we'll increase exposure a little bit. Oh, there we go. See, and that helps balance things out a little bit. Let's give it a little bit more contrast too. Yeah, that's pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. I can dig it. Now, let's say I want to add kind of an overall kind of warmish tone to it, since it is a sunset photo in Southern California, right? So let's add a little bit of orange to the shadows a little bit. And I'm going to take the highlights and make the highlights a little bit bluish too, to give it a little bit more contrast. And I don't want too much. So you can see that my little circle within the circle is pretty small, right? I'm not dragging it all the way because that's too much, right? Whoa. So let's just do just a tiny bit. And then the midtones, maybe some reddish midtones. You go purple. Let's go reddish. That's pretty good. So yeah, there you have it. Like that's there's some pretty decent edits for a scene like this. If you want to get really into it, like you can see that I got some hot air balloons and I got some birds in here. If I don't want those in there, let's just say I want to clean that up. We'll take the healing brush again. And we'll just get rid of this guy here. And get rid of this guy. And I got that bird over here, so let's get rid of him as well. Alright. There you go. There you go. Nice San Diego sunset scene with some edits and stuff like that. So, pretty good. Pretty good. Oh, there's a bird over here. He's out of focus. Let's see if I can get rid of that guy too. That will probably be okay. Yeah, you can't, especially from here, you can't tell that there's some type of edit there. So, all right, that's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Any questions on this edit at this point? Now, see, the thing I'm still getting used to is like how fast is my edits compared to what you guys are seeing. And when I look at the preview, it's quite a bit behind, which is really interesting. So, I don't know. If you guys see something, definitely put it in the chat, and we can always go back and make some edits. So we got our beach scene. We've got kind of our landscape. Let's look at a skyline photo. So here's one I took from Gasworks Park with my Z7. This was this summer, May. It was May 2nd. So, wow, that's exactly it's exactly a few months ago. So this was taken up there, and now I've got this big sky. We've got some nice clouds, and this is taken with the ultra wide angle, I think. Yeah, 30 millimeters, so not super wide, but wide enough. I actually look pretty decently straight on this. I don't think I need to correct the horizon. Well, you can see that Space Needle's leaning just a little bit, right? So let's try to fix that first. That might be because of the wide angle. And if you go down here, you have some transform tools, and if you hit auto, let's see if it actually does anything decent with it. Did it do anything? I don't think it did anything. Probably doesn't know what it's doing. All right, so oh, it did just slightly adjust it, but not really to my liking. So I'm gonna hit this constrain crop, because if you don't do that and you make adjustments, you can see how you got this white stuff on the side, right? We don't want that. So let's constrain crop, and we're gonna adjust this vertical like that, just to get it right. A little bit more straightened. Yeah, see, so something like that just straightens it out a little bit. This kind of happens with the wide angle. You get like some distortion and stuff like that, and so you don't really want the lines to be converging like you would. And so just a little bit of a minor adjustment on the vertical usually kind of helps that, especially if you're pointing at something like a skyline or something of that nature. All right, so like the way I usually do, let's start with the sky, right? So I'm going to select the sky, and I'm going to try a different method this time. So before we didn't have a select the sky mask, right? What we used to do, I actually just take a linear gradient like this, and I would drag it down from the top and select the sky this way. But of course, you would have all the skyline and stuff like that in the way. So what I would normally do is use what's called a luminance mask to get rid of the stuff that I don't want to be selected. And so you can kind of still do that now. We'll call this sky using the subtract. So if I subtract and I go luminance range, now we have a range of luminance. So I really just want the sky in this, so I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to pick, that's what I want to pick right now. And then I can make some adjustments on the range here, and you can see it's kind of awkward. Actually, I want to invert this. Let's actually undo that. That's not the way I wanted that to go. Let's go subtract. We'll go luminance range again. And I'm just going to click once here. Okay. And we're going to make adjustments to that using this tool. Ah, there we go. So if I do like that, I want the luminance map. Okay, that's what I'm looking for, is my luminance map. See, they've changed all this stuff around. This used to be a lot different than before. So again, usually this is the selection that you want to do. I'm gonna read through this whole thing because this is just not working the way I want it to. Okay. All right, so I've got my linear gradient. And we're gonna subtract luminance range from that. And it's actually, this is what I want to get rid of. There we go. That's what I want to get rid of. And then I want to slow my luminance mask. Okay, so it's only affecting these areas that are highlighted in red. And I'm going to worry about that area at the top in a little bit here. Let's move that over a little bit. Okay, good. All right, so now when I have that selected, that should subtract that. So if I go back to the main linear gradient here, okay, good. And I adjust the exposure, you can see the sky is adjusting, but you'll notice that the skyline is not adjusting at all, right? The actual buildings and stuff like that, but you can see that this area is. So I need to edit that range a little bit. And with that, I can actually add we're going to add a brush, and we're going to fill in that area here. There we go. So I'm not subtracting it anymore. And I think there was some other stuff on the side that was also being affected by this luminance range. Let's go back here, show that map. Yeah, so I don't want that area to show. So let's go back to the brush. And we want to, oh, we don't want that. We don't want that. That's right. Okay. All right, so we've got our sky. That's fine. Let's call that sky again. I guess I undid that. We did that for the exposure. Let's put some dehaze on there a little bit. You can see I've got some sensor dust, which I'll get rid of in a little bit. Add some clarity and some texture to that. And yeah, so that's our sky. Let's get rid of this thing at the top here. And we have another sensor dust. There's another way you could do this. So if you notice that at the bottom here, you have visualize spots. If you click that, it'll actually try to show you like any spots that you might actually have in the photo, but it doesn't always work that great. So in this case, like I'm seeing stuff that's not. So there's see a spot there. See a spot here as well. And I don't know what that is. That's like a plane or something, so I'm going to get rid of that. All right. Okay, so now that we have the sky done, let's make some more global adjustments. So we've got the overall exposure of stuff. We're going to dehaze a little bit more here. Clarity. And we're going to do the kind of the same kind of curve stuff that we did. Let's go with something a little more dramatic. It's getting a little bright over here, so I need to be careful about that. So you see how dark this area is up here? That's partially due to the polarization that I have on my circular polarizer for the sky. It's not always a good thing to do that, but you have to be careful about that when you take your photos and stuff. But you know, for learning purposes, whoa, definitely don't want to do that. It's this that I want to adjust. There we go. Bring that up just a tiny bit. It's a little dark. All right. And then if I want to take the whole saturation down a little bit, actually. Let's increase the vibrance. So it gives it a very unique kind of look. You can see the clouds are really kind of coming out now. Let's take a look at this mask again. Yeah, you can see the polarization difference, right? So that really makes you can see the difference in how the exposure changed on there. So let's adjust that just a little bit. Bring the highlights down a little bit too. Let's not pack that. There we go. Okay. All right, and then a little bit of color grading again. So let's warm it up just a tad. I kind of like how that orange is. It's almost kind of a faded film look of, like, you know, from like Polaroids and stuff like that. And we'll do a little bit on the highlights too. And for the midtones, we'll try to bounce that out a little bit with some bluish green. So this looks almost like it's from like the 70s or something, right? Definitely gives a very different look to it than we normally had. And we can even go this a step further, right? So let's go back to the crop over here. Let's pick something like a different aspect ratio, like a 4:5 or something like this, right? And I don't want all these people in here, so let's crop it down a little bit. I want to make sure the Space Needle's in that. So I'm moving the crop a little bit. It's also getting rid of this kind of really super dark area as well. And really, you know, a lot of people talk about megapixels on cameras and stuff like that, right? This is where the megapixels actually do kind of matter, because you can actually have the freedom to get something really wide and then just make a different crop out of it and stuff like that. That's really kind of the main use case for something like, so my Z7 is like a 46 megapixel camera. So there's a lot of data that you can work with, right? But you can, I mean, people are still shooting all the time with, like, you know, 12 megapixels and stuff like that, and your phone's like 12 megapixels. So you can definitely do more with it with this just to keep the resolution, but it's not like you can't crop it, right? So let's do that. That's actually pretty cool. It looks like an old photo. Let's go expand it just a tiny bit more over here. And notice I'm trying to still kind of maintain kind of a rule of thirds here, with like making sure that we got a lot of sky on 2/3, and then the lower thirds over here for like the water and the skyline and stuff like that. All right. So yeah, that's pretty good. Not bad at all. I might add a little bit more texture over here. Just overall texture. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. How's everybody doing? You guys still with me? All right, so I think we're good on like the landscape photos and stuff like that. If you guys want to see more of this type of stuff, definitely let me know if you want me to go back and stuff like that. But let's get into the car stuff. So this is more of the bread and butter stuff that I usually do, right? So this is this first one. We went and took, this is Hansel's BMW M4. We took photos of this. Wentz and Joe and Harper and I were out taking photos for this on Saturday, and I haven't even I haven't touched any of these photos yet. So, Hansel, if you're watching, either live or later, definitely this is your car. So let's see what we can do with it, right? I take usually a different approach when it comes to car photos, because with a landscape you're affecting like everything as a whole, but a car photo is kind of a mix of everything. You've got a landscape, you've also got a portrait in a way because of your subject, and you have to worry about all the different things around the car as well, right? So we're starting with this one. We took this over in Snoqualmie, and as you can see, there's kind of a ghostly little bridge in the background here, but I think I want to bring that out a little bit more. But the red nicely stands out against the background and all that kind of stuff. So let's see what we can do with this. First of all, I'm going to hit these just to see where I've got some. So I got some dark spots here. You can see that the blue is like the dark areas. So I'll need to make sure that I bounce that out a little bit, because I do want to bring out this bridge in the back. So let's start with a dehaze and see what that does. So you can see the bridge kind of coming out there, right? But it's also affecting the car a little bit too much, and that's a lot of dehaze. So I don't want to do that quite necessarily. Let's see how well this can select a subject. I haven't even tried this with a car yet, so let's see what happens. Wow, that's pretty damn good. I'm pretty impressed with that. Now, obviously, I want to affect everything around the car. So instead of this, I'm going to hit the invert up here, and that should affect everything else. And it's fine. It kind of leaks over a little bit because we can clean that up a little bit later. You notice also the mirror isn't showing up over there, but we'll get back to that. So let's say this is the everything except the car. And now let's hit that dehaze. So the car stays intact, and now the dehaze is affecting everything else, which is pretty cool. I don't want to do too much because then it gets a little too dark, right? So we'll just go maybe about 35 like that. Get a little bit of clarity in there as well to bring that out a little bit more. And we'll decrease the exposure. Now, when I decrease the exposure here, because I'm doing this for everything outside of the car is going to stay the same exposure, and it actually brings the car out a little bit. It makes it stand out a little bit more against the background, which is great. It's actually kind of what we want to do. So let's decrease that exposure a little bit, and that helps bring the bridge out. And let's bring the highlights down a little. Shadows, it's starting to get a little dark over here on like the tree trunks, so let's see if I can increase that a little bit. And then the blacks, yeah, like that. And the white. So if I bring the whites down, it really kind of gets a little spooky. And then a little bit of texture. I'm going to increase the saturation a little bit just because like the green is a nice contrast to the red, right? And if I lower the saturation, it has kind of this like, it's a little muted, right? And I want it to balance out a little bit. I mean, I think the muted actually looks pretty cool, but I want to balance it out a little bit. So let's increase the saturation a little bit there. And the temperature. Ooh. So if you go to the colder temperature, that's usually a little bit more kind of a spooky feel, right? If you warm it up, it doesn't look right. So let's go a little colder. And we'll adjust the tint a little bit as well. Now, notice that because it's affecting everything but the car. See how it's in the windows here? It's not being affected. That was one of the things that you can easily miss if you're not really paying attention, right? This is definitely one of those attention to detail moments. So because of that, what I want to do is I'm going to add to this. So I'm going to add with a brush, and I'm just going to brush in this area here on the window to make sure that we get that covered. And that's kind of that same area over here too. There's definitely a little bit here, but I want to be careful on this side because this is really just the driver's side, right? And I don't want to. I'm gonna undo that a little bit. I think I need to decrease the flow a little bit on this one, so that it doesn't. You can notice it slightly, but it's not gonna overpower what you have on the actual car itself. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. That's pretty good. All right, so let's work on the overall exposure and stuff at this point. So I'm going to increase the overall saturation just a tiny bit. You have to be careful of the red, because the reds are usually very difficult for most cameras to get right. Like they can get a little too oversaturated, like it's a little too red, right? So I'm gonna take the saturation here, and we'll go on the red. And so then it starts getting too pale. So the way you combat this is you take the saturation down a little bit, and then you take the luminance, and you can adjust the luminance to make it a little bit more darkened a little bit. But I think that's a little bit too much. So let's go back. We'll actually go with the luminance first. Yeah, and bring that down a little bit. So just adjusting the luminance actually works, because if you have too much, it's like you can see how bright that really gets, right? So, but I don't want to go too dark, because now you have like a maroon car, and you don't want that either. So let's just slightly change that. Okay, that's good. All right, and then we're back over here. Let's adjust these tone curves a little bit. So I'm going to bring this down, give it a little bit more contrast. Oh, I don't want to add a separate one. Whoa, definitely don't want to do that. So if you bring this down up from the very corner left, you can see how that gives it kind of a matte look, right? But what you sacrifice is like a true black, right? So if it's super flattened out like this, if you look down here, see it's muddy, right? It's like a muddy black, and that's kind of that faded film look. But sometimes you don't want to overdo that, because then it just like it doesn't look right. So I'm gonna undo that, but I am gonna do just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of an effect. But I want to maintain those actual blacks on there, right? And then I'm gonna adjust this up here a little bit as well. And I'm gonna increase the overall exposure, because and then I'm gonna bring it down a little bit on the edges. So let's do the overall exposure here, to make sure that the car is nicely exposed. And then some of the highlights down a little bit. Bring up those shadows just slightly. The whites we can take down a little bit, and then the blacks. We definitely want to keep the blacks, so we're going to keep that like that. That's actually pretty decent. Now, it is definitely cold because of the mask that I applied for everything except the car, right? Now, if I reset that back to where it was, that's actually, it's okay, but I like how cold this is. So let's keep that as that is, but then let's make some adjustments to like the sides and stuff like that. like this area over here, we can make some adjustments. So let's do another mask, and we'll go with a linear gradient, and I'm gonna drag that from the side here, like so. And I want to warm this one up a little bit. And the nice thing about warming this up is that because there's a lot of like dead leaves and stuff, it actually warms up those leaves as well. Yeah, a little bit of adjustment to the tint too. We can also change the hue. We definitely don't want purple. That's not right. We don't want green, so let's actually not worry about that. But let's increase the saturation on this area. And I think I want to extend this a little bit more, so let's bring this out a little bit, like that. Yeah. A little bit of dehaze. No, I don't do that. Let's do texture. Really bring out those leaves. It's pretty good. All right, I like that. Let's call this ground right. And I kind of want to do the same thing to the front ground as well. So I'm going to duplicate this. And then I'm going to drag it over. We're going to flip that around a little bit, like so. Bring that over here. Shrink it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's standing out pretty good. There's a little bit of a bright spot on the headlight, so what I'm now gonna do is I'm gonna take another mask. Actually, we're gonna make sure this is called ground front. This time I'm gonna take a brush, and I'm just gonna adjust the exposure on this down a little bit. So let me brush this real quick here on the headlight. See, my flow is not all the way up, so let's I knew there was something wrong with that. So let's go brush. I want my flow at 100% this time. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to decrease the exposure on the headlight just a little bit so that we don't have that really super bright spot there. And it evens it out. There you go. Let's so you can see the difference. See, because you can see how dark this one is. I want to kind of match that a little bit to make sure that it's the other side isn't standing out too much. So we'll do that. I'm gonna call this one passenger headlight exposure. Kelly, hello! Long time no see. All right, so that's pretty good on the headlamp there. We've got our leaves. We've got this background here, and it looks kind of spooky. I think I want to make that a little bit spookier in a way. So let's make adjustment to that mask. But I want it to just this area. So we're going to do another linear gradient. Like this. And then we'll change the exposure a little bit. Ooh, yeah. And I like how that's making the bridge really kind of come out now, right? All this foggy background. And we'll make some other adjustments here. Highlights a little bit. Ooh, if I increase the blacks, that actually makes it kind of a little bit more misty yet you can see through it. So that's kind of cool. Let's go with that. Lights down a little bit. This might be a little too much on the blacks. Adjust it all down a little bit. Yeah. Nope. Don't want to adjust the clarity. Texture. Whoa, that's pretty good. I think I need to make adjustment down here again, though. And then we can go to color grading. Midtones, shadows. No, I don't want to do that. Ooh, there we go. Give it some cooler shadows with some blues. Some warmish highlights. I gotta be careful with the red though on the car, right? Because like this side is starting to look a little pink. I don't necessarily want that, so let's go back to this side over here. Now the hue one is really interesting because I can actually take this and just like, you can see how much more pink that gets. Or I could totally just change it to like an orange car. No, I don't think Hansel's gonna like that, so we're not gonna adjust that hue. But I just want to make sure that we have an even color on the front of the car here. So let's see if I can slight adjustments to the saturation. Yeah, bring that down a little bit and then balance it out with some luminance. Yeah. Cool. Oh, that's pretty good. You can get really creative too. Like you've got like the greens and stuff. So if you actually go all the way down on the right hand side here, you have calibration, and that actually lets you calibrate some specific things. So the best way to describe this is when you're adjusting things like your saturation and your luminance up here, that's affecting like what this perceives as like a green or a yellow or an orange or a red, right? But if you actually go down to the calibration, what you're actually calibrating here is what exactly is a red? What exactly is a green? So I know Wentz and Andy and Jeremy, this is how you're calibrating the color itself, and then it's going to tell you then to describe to the rest of the photo what actually is a green, right? So let's say if I want to change the greens down here and change what that hue looks like, you can see how the greens specifically are affected. So if I move this all the way to the left, the green's a lot more like yellowish, right? And if I move it all the way to the right, the greens are super green, but you can also see, because remember, this is an RGB, it's red, blue, green photo. That green hue also affects the reds because you're adding more green to that overall red and stuff, right? So you gotta be a little careful with it, but you can actually get some really cool effects with it if you play around. So let's change the saturation a little bit. And you can see even just me decreasing the green saturation affects the red. And increasing it also this. Actually, I'm going to increase that a little bit to make that red stand out just a little bit more. You can also add tint to the shadows too. I don't really want to go purple though. Yeah, it is interesting. Like this is something that you don't really think about, right? You're just thinking like, oh, of course, the green is the green, but you actually have more control. And there's different versions of this, right? So you can actually change it to like what Lightroom perceived as a green like years ago compared to what it does now, right? So let's do that. Let's change the blue a little bit. Now, if I see how this one changes stuff, look how orange and red everything got down at the bottom, and look how blue this is over here. It looks totally different, right? And that's because I changed the hue all the way down to like the aqua color. But if I go all the way blue, now everything is purple and the green is really standing out. So I'm not going to adjust that too much, but just gives you a demonstration of how that color perception is. But I think this is pretty good right now. I think that's a good effect. I don't know if we'll keep this for like all the rest of Hansel's photos, but definitely a nice kind of spooky Halloween thing we got going on here. And I think it works pretty well. All right, so I have one more car photo, and then we'll get into some kind of crazy stuff that I know Alan was really interested in, but we're going to look at this. I got two here, and I'm going to show you why I have two. So this is Rena and Randy's Porsche 911 taken at Ella Bailey Park. This was, how many years ago was this? 2 years ago now? Yeah, 2019. And you see this one, we've got one like that looks like this, but then if I hit the next one, it's the exact same photo, but you notice that there's different colors going on here with the windows. So notice how this window looks right here. And if I click on this one, the window, you can actually see through it. It's not reflective, but then you can see the reflection on this side. This is caused by your circular polarizer that you use on your camera lens. And so that's a filter that you put on there. And we use this a lot with automotive photography because we want to manage those reflections, whether it's a reflection through the windshield or the windows of the car, or we manage it through the sides or through the paint and stuff like that, right? You can see that I use that same polarizer with Hansel's photo here. That's why we can actually see through the windshield, but it's really reflective here. And because I took this in just one photo, I don't have a separate one for the side, right? But in this one, I have it set up on a tripod. So basically I take a photo with it, the polarized for the windshield, wait for that photo exposed, then I turn the polarizer and I take another photo, and that's one polarized for the side. And you can see it, there are obviously two different photos because people are in different places and they moved and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this one first, and then we'll copy those edits to the next one, and then we'll go into Photoshop and combine the two so that we have one solid photo, and then we'll do some other stuff. So let's start with this. Let's play around with that calibration thing, right? I'm going to start with that real quick. What happens if I do this? So that's really green. Okay, I don't want to do that. I think it was the blue that was really... Oh, yeah. So you might have seen a photo that I posted where it was like really like kind of pumpkin looking. Cool, Jay. Thanks for coming by for as long as you did. Appreciate it. This will be available. The whole thing is going to be available on my YouTube account later, so you can always go back and watch the stuff that you missed later. So you're all good. But yeah, let's go with this, and then obviously this isn't like the real colors, but that's kind of the point, right? So we're gonna go this way, and let's see if I can adjust some other calibration for the reds. I think it's the blues one that I just want to mess around with. So we'll stick with the blue and keep it that way. And then exposure is pretty good. It is a little bright up here, but I'm gonna keep it for now. Use this as my guide, so the highlights look pretty decent. The exposure is actually pretty good on this, if I do say so myself. Let's dehaze it just a tad, bring it out a little bit. More clarity, some texture. And then we'll again go to our curves here. So to increase some of that contrast, we're gonna create that S curve again. It's a little too much though. Lift this one up a little bit. It's pretty good. Lift some of those shadows out a little bit. But we don't want it too we don't want too much of the shadows to come out, right? So we're gonna balance that out with some blacks and bring some of the highlights down. And let's adjust some of the, warm it up a little bit. I don't want to do that. Yeah. Some blue in the midtones. Sky is really overcooked right now, and I'm not liking that. So let's take the saturation. Let's bring that down a little bit. Yeah. It's a little bright too, so luminance. Okay. Got that. Oh, that's a little too much. There we go. No, don't want to do that. And, you know, honestly, guys, I mean, a lot of times you're just going to play around with this and go with what you think looks good, right? There's no, again, there's no science to this. It's just playing around and seeing what you like, right? Use that a little bit again. That's pretty good. Let's take a look at that. Okay, that's let's say that's our edit, right? And then you can see where we started with basically is this, right? So this one obviously is the raw file and it's like super washed out, and then you've got this one which is totally different type of processing, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna with this selected, I'm just gonna select the next one and hit previous. And that just copies everything over to the next one. So now I've got two of these. So why am I doing this? So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to combine these in Photoshop so that I have both of the polarizations for the windows, right? Because this one, you don't see the reflection of the car in the side, but this one you do. And then, but you can see the window, see through the windshield, I should say, on that. But this one you can't. It's kind of hazy, right? So we're going to combine both of these. So I'm going to highlight both of these, and then I'm going to have right click, and I'm going to go edit, merge, open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, so normally I would just hit edit in Photoshop, but I'm going to open as layers this time. So we'll do that. And this will take a little bit because there's two pretty large photos that'll get opened. All right, so we've got both of those open in Photoshop now. And what I'm going to do is over here on the right-hand side, I've got both layers, as you can see. So if you can see that I go like this, and one of them goes away, and you can see the other side of it, right? Now, because there could be like micro adjustments, or like you kind of touch the camera for a little bit, they might be just slightly off. So we want to make sure that those are actually as aligned as you can be. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to highlight both of these. I'm going to go edit, auto align layers. And I'm just going to keep it on auto and let Photoshop do its thing. So that'll just make sure that like I don't have anything that's like strangely misplaced or out of the way and that sort of thing. And I think that was actually pretty good because it really didn't move very much. So I probably did a really great job with that. But you see a lot of this differently when you change what you're focusing on and things like that. So now that that's out of the way, I've got on the top, I've got this layer that has, you can see through the windshield. And then on the bottom is the rest of it. So what I want to do at this point is I'm going to flip these over actually. So that this is the one that's on the top. And I just want to get rid of the windshield, right? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit this button on the layer palette, which is the add layer mask. And so now, this is a mask. So anything that's white is what you see. And then if it's black, that means you're basically removing it. So you're peeling the tape off. That's how the mask works, like masking tape, right? So what I do then is you go over to the brush and I will flip this over to black. And this brush is really small, so I'm going to increase the size of this, right click, and let's make a bigger brush. Okay, it's pretty good. Notice I'm taking a soft round brush because I don't want it to be just like super just like cut, right? And now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to go like this and notice how it reveals what's underneath it. Really simple, right? And if I hold down the option key, I'm on a Mac. So if I hold down the option key, you can see that that's the black. It's showing the area that you're not seeing. I hold down the option key and then click on the actual layer mask here to reveal that. And I can hit it again and I'll do that. I think that's Alt on a PC. I don't remember off the top of my head. I usually kind of fumble around with that because I'm usually doing these photo edits on the Mac instead. But that lets you see what you're revealing there. So that looks pretty good. The next thing I want to do then is we've got those two combined now. Let's do some cleanup. So the cleanup stuff is usually a lot easier to do in Photoshop, but before I do that, we're going to combine these layers. So what I usually like to do is actually select both of these. And I'm going to duplicate them first. And the reason why is because I don't want to lose anything, right? I'm just going to duplicate both of those. And then these two, I will then merge into one. So merge layers. And then I'll just turn these off, right? So if I ever need to go back and make another adjustment, then to either of the original ones, then I save them, right? But this is the one that's kind of the flattened version. So now let's start making some cleaning up and stuff like that. So let's go take the adjustment brush or the spot healing brush. I'm gonna go a little bit bigger, excuse me, and I'll get rid of that little thing there. There's this dude in the frame. I'm gonna get rid of him. Let's go take the patch tool. Oh geez. I'm just gonna hide him like this and then drag over from here and patch him. Yeah, you wouldn't notice that he's there anymore. There's a garbage can here. And you know, for most purposes, you're probably not gonna care about this stuff, but I care about this stuff. So it is what it is. Like you wouldn't notice that right there. These people are kind of in the way, but I don't think it's a big deal. But if I really wanted to get rid of them, let's just go like this. This actually might not work very well, but we're gonna try it. That's not bad. It's still kind of cut off though. Let's just keep them back in there. I mean, no one's really gonna pay attention to that. Okay, so you got that. I've got this little painted line down here, so I'm gonna zoom in. I'll get rid of this. So we'll go back here. like this thing. Patch it from this side. Actually looks kind of janky, so we're gonna redo that. The reason why it's janky is because I've got this line in the middle, right? So if I do it from just one side to the other, then that'll probably work a little bit easier. Yeah, that's better. It when it's zoomed in, it looks kind of ghetto, but when you zoom out, like you don't tell it's there. So that's fine. We'll do the same thing for this. Good. Let's say I want to get rid of the sewer grading. Ooh, did I miss part of that? I did. Okay. Oh, because I'm on the edge. That kind of sucks. This mountain actually might be a little hard to get. I don't like how that looks. Let's do it differently. Let's see if I can just clone it out. So I got the clone stamp here. I have to hit the option key to select a sample, and then that's how it just clones it out this way. Since it's just a street, it's a little bit easier. And now I can go back and switch to the patch tool and take the rest of it, because if you just clone the whole thing over, it's just gonna look super like uniform and not natural. So now I'll go like this. It's a little better. Yeah, there you go. See? So yeah, you wouldn't tell that there was anything there at that point. And then we can also get rid of this manhole cover as well. Pretty good. Okay. All right, that's not bad. We've got that all combined here. I would also maybe we'll do this when we bring it back into Lightroom, but it's a little dark on this side, so you could probably actually do this if I go take the dodge tool, go over here, go to dodge, go the bigger brush, and I got the exposure at 50%, and so if I just brush over on this side, this kind of lightens it up just a tiny bit. That looks okay. If I undo that, you can see the difference. Yeah, let's just keep it for now. The next thing I want to do is something a little crazy. Let's throw some clouds in here, right? So I have Skyline for this, so we're gonna use Skyline. You could also do it. Photoshop has Photoshop has a sky replacement tool. I kind of like the Luminar one version better, so I'm gonna use that. So let's go Luminar AI on here. And this is a plugin. It's actually gotten a lot better, I think, over the time that we've had it. So if I go edit here, and I'm gonna go the sky replacement. I have a lot of different skies, so let's go sky select. I want to keep with like the blue sky, right? I just want to replace the clouds and stuff like that. So let's stick with something pretty similar. let's go with something like this. The thing is, I don't think there's much sky on there, so let's see if I can bring the vertical position down. There you go. Yeah, it didn't really find much sky to actually replace with. That's right for the horizontal position. If I go with something like this, yee, that's too much. Yeah. Yeah, that's not looking too great. Let's just keep it with that. I'm not gonna mess with the sky. I think that's a pretty good, decent edit right now. It's definitely very much like kind of overcooked at this point. But that's done on purpose, right? Because we adjusted the things like the calibration for the blues and stuff like that. And then if I hit save, this will bring it back into Lightroom. This has got bigger because I've got different layers, so that's why it's taking a little bit longer. Okay. And I'll go back into Lightroom. And there you go. There it is. I want to brighten this area up a little bit more again, so I'm going to take a mask over here. And you can do this in Photoshop too, but I just like... I'm just more comfortable doing this stuff in Lightroom for whatever reason. I can't really explain why that is. I guess I'm just used to it. Okay, so I'm gonna go like that, and there you go. We're lightening that up just a little bit. It is getting a little, we want to cool it down just a bit too, to make sure it maintains the same kind of bluish color that we have with the gray. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I'm gonna change the luminance range a little bit because I don't want to affect the areas that are already bright, right? Yeah. Right, so I'm subtracting those areas. So it's only really affecting the dark areas within that, as you can see. So you see how this kind of highlight is not selected on that anymore, but everything else is. So that's exactly what I wanted that to do. That looks pretty good. All right. I think that's pretty good for that one. All right, so the one last request that we had was from Alan. Alan wanted to have a Jetpack Beaver. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm gonna go over to my browser. So I have a beaver. I'm just gonna copy this and let's bring it into Photoshop. File new, and I got my clipboard. I'm just gonna paste it in. I got my beaver there, and I already started looking for jetpacks. So I need to get a jetpack side view because what I'm thinking is I'm gonna put the jetpack on the back of the beaver. Okay. So let's figure out. Actually, first of all, let's select the beaver first. So I should be able to go select subject in Photoshop. Yep. And almost got it. We can now refine this. So let's go to the selection tool and select and mask is what we want. And we want to make sure that we are are selecting other stuff. Actually, you know what? I want to add to, there we go, it's my onion skin overlay. Okay. I want to add more to this. So we're going to take this, we're going to add, we need to add the tail, right? So let's do that. And I don't want to get all of that, so let's remove part of it. We're going to go over here and remove that edge right there. I think this brush is a little rough though. It's my rough one. Okay. And I don't want the grass, obviously. And we can deal with that one right there. It's fine. Oh, so now it's ID to do that over here. So we need to at least capture the shadow of the tail. I just don't want to get all the grass. And I think I'm missing his foot. Oh yeah, whoa. Beaver foot's weird, man. This one's definitely a little more complex. Let's let me zoom in here. Okay. Whoa. Yeah, refine this edge here. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's pretty decent. I need to refine some of the edge here. Dude, check this dude out, man. Oh. All right, so we've got that. And then we're going to adjust the edge detection a little bit. So hopefully it'll get a little bit more of the fur. I mean, it's a pretty, it's pretty wet beaver. So a lot of it's sticking out very much, which is fine. We're going to decontaminate the colors a little bit, make sure that gets those. Yeah, it's pretty good. If I increase the feather a little bit. No, then that's a little too fuzzy. Too much contrast there. Smart radius. It's pretty good. Okay, so I've got a basic, pretty decent selection. I mean, some of it's not great. But we can refine this later, right? So, because I'm gonna do it with a layer mask. So I'm gonna hit OK. And because I have a layer mask, I can always go back and use the paintbrush to revise it later. So that's fine. Oh my God. There we go. And you know, it's a little harsh on here, so we'll go back and we'll fix it a little bit. But let's increase our canvas size so that we have more room to work with. Let's go 1800 here and a little bit extra. Let's do 1800 by 1800 sounds good. All right. We got ourselves a beaver. All right, let's find a jetpack that we can throw on this sucker. Let's see. I mean, that's like Boba Fett's or Jango Fett's jetpack right there. The side view might be okay. Oh, a Bo-Katan jetpack. That's pretty good. Let's open that in a new window. Yeah, let's roll with this. So I'm gonna copy this. We'll go back to Photoshop. And I'm gonna make a new layer of this. There's my jetpack. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna select subject. And that's a lot more straightforward because it's already on a white background, right? So you can see this selection was pretty much spot on, right? So I'm just gonna copy that and I'm gonna paste it over here. Whoa, that's a lot smaller than I was expecting, but that's okay. Let's rotate this 90 degrees counterclockwise. Cool. And now we're gonna shrink our beaver because this is actually a decent size. So let's I'm gonna copy this, make that into a different layer, and we'll make this into a smart object. And the reason why I'm gonna convert this to a smart object is because then I can resize it and stuff and not lose any of the resolution and stuff like that. So and I want to hide that guy for now. So we're gonna put this jetpack on this beaver. It's pretty good. The good thing about this is his head is almost like perfectly shaped to like hold this jetpack on him. All right, that's actually pretty good. But I don't think I can with that smart object. I can't adjust the mask anymore. So actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna see if I can just resize this one instead. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So then let's we're gonna adjust the color a little bit on this. So I'm gonna do an adjustment layer, and we're start with the curves. Try to get it to match the. Oh, I didn't do that right. I need to make sure I select specifically the jetpack. So I'm gonna hold the command key and then click that. So there you have the selection, and then I'm gonna create that adjustment to a layer and select curves. So now it's only affecting that. So you see how everything's black except for that white area because that's the only thing that's being affected. And I'm going to adjust the curves here. The reason why is I want it to kind of match the beaver a little bit better. And then we need to make some color adjustments. So let's select that again. Another one with the hue saturate color balance. Let's do color balance. Here we go. There we go. All right, that's pretty good for now, I'd say. And then let's clean up this this mask here a little bit. Got that on there. Make sure that's selected. I'm gonna take the black brush. I mean, just doing this ever so slightly, just to get rid of some of these leafy areas. So if a beaver's flying with a jetpack, do you think he's got to use his tail as like a rudder, right? Or would he use it's flat, so would it be like an aileron, so it's going up and down with the tail, or is it a rudder where it's moving, you know, it's yawing left and right? Like, I guess it makes more sense if it's more of like an aileron. Yeah. These are the questions that deserve like the most answers, right? A little bit of grass on this guy right here. All right, now we need to do some other stuff. So let's group all this stuff together. And we're gonna call this group the Jetpack Beaver. Yeah, I guess they would stay angry. I mean, I guess they don't really have much to be happy about, right? Now, I want to add some flames, and I think there's a way to do that now. So let's create a new layer. And I think there's a... I don't know if it's a filter? Render? I think it's a render. Render flame. Haha. All right. Oh, I need a path. So I need to create a path. So let's create a path. We're going to use the pen tool. And I want flames coming out of the jetpack, right? So... we're just going to make a really generic path first and see if the flames, like... if we can randomize how this works. And this is going to go actually behind it. So let's do it that way. I'm going to move this layer down. Okay. And then right click and I'm going to go create path. Actually, that should already be a path. So let's then go to render flame. Oh, that's angle. Whoa. See, I want to move it. All right, I'm not. Ooh, okay. Because the path right now is a flat path, right? I want to make it a longer path. So maybe what I need to do actually is let's redo this. I'm gonna redo this path. If I make the path like tall, all right, and then yes, okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for, but it's a little much. So let's shrink it down just a tiny bit. That's not quite the way I want that to look, though. I don't want to randomize. Okay, there we go. Oh my god, that's so much fire. I think I need to make it shorter still. I wonder if I can just do it like in a box. And then see what happens. I've literally only used this like a couple times, so. Whoa! Oh, that got all wacky, dude. Reset that. Huh. That's what I need. I need one flame along path. There we go. Multiple flames, one direction. Ah. Ooh, okay. Path directed. Whoa. Candlelight? Oh. I think this is the one we want. Yeah, this is the one we want, right? Yeah, let's try this. Let's see what happens. Oh shit. Oh. No. Okay, so I see what's going on here. Let's do it this way. That was actually good to know how that worked. So if I go back to creating, if I just go like this, I think that's all I need. Yeah, all right. So then let's see if it lets me do this. Oh, see, that's different. Oh. Angle. So I think I do need, it doesn't like going sideways. That's really what it comes down to. So let's basically go like this. All right. Ooh. Okay. There we go. So then we can rotate this. They show bounding rectangles empty? What? Why won't let me rotate that? Back to the pen tool. Delete path. Okay. I think that's probably why. And then let's see if I can rotate this now. Yes. It's a little small. Let's change this background to black. That's fantastic. All right, let's make this flame a little bit bigger. I'm gonna also transform this a little bit by warping it a little bit. Oh no, not puppet warp. That's too much. I just want to distort it a little bit because I want it to kind of come out of that a little bit more, right? Like this. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Spaghetti hair? Why now? Why would I put spaghetti hair on the beaver at this point? Like, why? Why? I need to darken this a little bit. It needs like the kind of a halo on the back end of it now. Because you got more light coming from the jetpack, right? So let's how do I want to do that? He can take his jetpack and he can go and fly to wherever the spaghetti is and just grab it. He doesn't need spaghetti hair because he's hungry, okay? That doesn't make any sense. All right. I want to make an adjustment layer here. Let's see. How do I want to do this? think what I want to do is make a blank layer. On a brush, want the flow pretty soft. Of course, I picked yeah, see, I think we want color dodge. There we go. Color dodge is what we want. M&M of Photoshop. What? We're gonna take this adjustment and I'm gonna then take the color bounce, warm it up a little bit. Yep. that's pretty good. I need to add more though. There we go. Yeah, there we go. All right. And let's take our good old beaver friend here. I think the last thing I need to do on this, that's not that one. Jetpack. Remember, kids, name your layers. It makes things so much easier. Beaver with mask. Flame glow. This flame glow should, yeah, that's where I want that to be. All right, this guy needs to get an adjustment because he's a little bright. That tail is a little bright too, so let's select the tail specifically. Just gonna select this like that. And then we'll do another adjustment layer. A little too much on there. There we go. Okay. Welcome back, Jeremy. Yeah, you're flying to get spaghetti, man. I mean, look at this guy. He's ready for takeoff. I think this is pretty good. I'm gonna save this right now. We're gonna call this the Jetpack Beaver live stream. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. And then if I merge only the visible layers, got that guy. And then if I want to crop it, let's crop to a 2x3. Oh, flip that. Oh, give me my crop. There we go. That is quite the Jetpack Beaver, if I do say so myself. I'm going to export this. I want to get rid of this black background now, though. Shit, I should have done that earlier. There we go. There we go. Now, merge, visible. There we go. And then I can crop it again. I don't know why you would see this at a bulletin board for Spaghetti Factory, but hey, I don't control what happens after this, you know. Who knows what you guys plan to do with it. Alright, now I'm going to export this as a PNG. Alright. So now you literally could let's take one of these photos. Let's take this and let's say I edit this in Photoshop. Okay. And let's take my Jetpack Beaver and throw him in there. It looks so bad, it's good. Galactus. You find me a good image of Galactus, and I can definitely see if I can fit him into the background there. You know, I could like put him in the sky or something, right? We need to add some like blur to this guy a little bit. Now, Photoshop has this weird like blur tool now. Let's see if we can make use of it. It's a neural filter. It's one of the new things. It's not the depth blur though. It's like it's a motion blur. I think maybe it's not a neural filter. Let's see. Blur gallery, I think is under blur gallery. Yeah. Path blur. What? It's a little. That's a little too much. I think he's going a little fast. I don't think that's the one I want. Ooh, out of the water. That's I like that idea. Hold on. All right, you know what? Let's move him down first. This is a gigantic beaver, by the way, if he's splashing out of the water. It's gonna make it hard. Doing the splash is a hard part because, actually, you know what? he might work out over here. Splashing out of this side. Or what you do is we find a water splash somewhere else and just comp that in. Let's do that for now. Let's do that. Splash out of water. Oh, that's got a bunch of shit on it. I don't want that. Jump out of water. Ha! Yes. this is what we want. Okay, hold on a second. Let me copy that image address. Oh wow, that's like super small, dude. Lighten's what I want, but I need to get rid of this fish, man, or everything else around it. So let me select this. I need a bigger brush. Or I can just select, oh, I can select the subject. Ooh. All right, you know what? Let's... do it this way. We'll just do it the manual way, and it'll probably be super janky, but that's fine. I mean, it's not like this is like trying to win photography awards here or anything like that. Oh, my flow is too low. Now we pick the layer style lighten. That's a little... That didn't work out exactly the way I wanted that to. Whoa, that looks weird. Overlay. The blend layers are always the kind of the weirdest one because they all do very different things. And it's all done through calculations and stuff like that. So like you want to try to... Oh shit, that's not right. You want to definitely do it in the right way, but you know what it is I think my... Let's move this guy out of the way first. Yeah. Yeah, see. Have to make sure I select the right layer for it. It's always helpful. See, I lost a splash at the bottom with the screen, though. I need to keep that. Smaller brush now. Lower the flow a little bit. Oh man. All right, put our beaver back in. That's pretty good. I think we need. Oh man! All right, let's move him just a little bit because I don't have his tail. Can't really see his tail, but yeah. I mean, oh man. Oh shit. I keep forgetting that like this raw photo is gigantic. Like it's like a 36 megapixel photo, so that's why these are like HD like wallpaper sizes, but they're still tiny compared to the actual like main one. So that's why it's like that. Um, yeah, see the Galactus is a little bit easier to do because you can just do uh, the screen mode, and he comes right out. That's a little too much color dodge. Lighten. That almost looks like a screen is about right for that. Should we be over here? Yeah, this makes most sense over here. And then we just have to erase. It just needs to. What we do here is we'll use a gradient to make him like merge better. Whoops. Oh, wrong way. Yeah, see. Do that, and then and so this is kind of the weird trick and I don't even know if this is the right way to do, if there's a proper way. So I have a gradient for that side, then I'll select these two and I'll merge them, and that's fine because that's where you have to just go back to screen again. And then I'll do the same thing again, but this time I'll do the gradient on the bottom with the layer mask, and then I'll gradient from the bottom here. Almost got it right. There you go. It's pretty good. think I already have them going off the side, right? Yeah, so that should be okay there. But I need to get this corner up here so he matches better. We'll do that, and then we'll do the same thing. Merge these two. Merge. It's fine. And back to gradient. Not a little much though. That's good. That's good. All right, I don't even know what the hell just happened here, but that works. It works. I'm gonna call this pretty good. Let's flatten this and then convert to RGB. And we'll give it a web-sized version like that. And we'll export this as a JPEG. And we'll call this Jetpack Beaver versus Galactus. All right, so that's a JPEG now. I'm gonna go back a couple like this just to make sure that I save a PSD of this. All right, guys. Well, that was pretty good. I think that was a 2.5 hour live stream. Not bad for the first time. I'm gonna post these on the various social media outlets that we have, and just say this is the the fruits of our labor tonight was a Jetpack Beaver and Galactus trying to attack La Jolla with the Jetpack Beaver splashing out of the water to defend us against the might of Galactus. So cool, guys. Let me make sure I also have I have this saved as a PNG, so I'm gonna save another version as a JPEG just like this, just to make sure that I have it for posterity. I don't know what this obsession with the spaghetti is, but you gotta be more specific about what you want. But it's spaghetti. I mean, it gets everywhere. It's a little bit more difficult to do things with because of selections. But well, maybe next time we'll see the challenge and see what we can do for that. So, all right, guys. Well, I think we can wrap it up with that. Thanks for everyone for coming to the live stream. First one for me. Great suggestions, good chat. I hope you guys learned something from this. We also learned how ridiculously ghetto and crazy we can get with some of this, but I think that was definitely a good fun time. So yeah, because I'm the Eminem of Photoshop. I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, I guess, because no one wants to take on Eminem, but I'm not. I don't know if you guys create this into a thing. I don't even know how I feel about that, but definitely make sure you when I do post this up on Facebook and everywhere else, Instagram, please be sure to like and comment and share it, and just share your overall experience that you had tonight. So that'd be really appreciated. Also, I don't know who's been watching that isn't already a friend of mine, but be awesome if you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. I'm at 105 subscribers right now. I would love to grow that more if we can, but you know, this is all kind of an experiment, so let's see what we can do. And until then, thank you again for joining, and have a great night, everybody, and we'll see what we do next time. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.